Welcome to session 2 on myocardial infarction. And before moving on to myocardial infarction, pathogenesis, causes and risk factors that has been discussed for angina pectoris and ischemic heart disease will contribute to myocardial infarction also. And the most common cause for myocardial infarction is again atherosclerosis and its secondary changes. Now moving on to myocardial infarction. It is commonly known as heart attack and it is defined as the death of the cardiac muscle due to prolonged ischemia. So this is the major difference between myocardial infarction and angina pectoris. In angina pectoris, there is myocardial ischemia, but it was insufficient to produce myocyte necrosis. Whereas in myocardial infarction, the primary feature is the death of the cardiac muscle due to prolonged ischemia. Nearly 10% of myocardial ischemia and myocardial infarction occurs in people younger than 40 years and 45% occurs below 65 years, which means that as the age increases, there is more preponderance for myocardial ischemia as well as myocardial infarction. And coming on to causes for myocardial infarction, the most common cause is coronary arterial occlusion in the form of atherosclerosis and its secondary changes. And next is vasospasm followed by emboli formation. Sometimes ischemia without detectable or significant coronary atherosclerosis or emboli, as in case of vasculitis, sickle cell disease, shock and aortic stenosis can also contribute for myocardial infarction. So this picture has been shown already. This is just to show that what are all the arteries will contribute for myocardial infarction. Now, in this slide, LAD means left anterior descending branch of left coronary artery, RCA means right coronary artery, and LCX means left circumflex artery. This has been put to show you how much contribution each vessel gives to this myocardial infarction. First, in case of left anterior descending artery, about 40 to 50% of cases of myocardial infarction are due to problems within the left anterior descending artery. And in that, if it contributes to myocardial infarction, the anterior wall of left ventricle near the apex, anterior portion of ventricular septum and apex will show the changes of myocardial infarction. Whereas in case of right coronary artery pathology, which contributes to 30 to 40% of myocardial infarction, inferior and the posterior wall of left ventricle and posterior portion of left ventricular septum will be involved. Whereas in case of left circumflex, which contribute to 50 to 20% of myocardial infarction, lateral wall of left ventricle except apex will show changes of myocardial infarction. Next, coming on to morphology and what determines the morphology of myocardial infarction. The morphology of myocardial infarction usually depends upon the location, severity and rate of development of coronary obstruction due to atherosclerosis. Next, the size of the vascular bed perfused by obstructed vessels. The third one is duration of the occlusion. And fourth one is the metabolic and oxygen needs of the myocardium at risk. And fifth one is the extent of collateral blood vessels. And next is presence, site and severity of coronary artery spasm. And seventh one, it also depends upon heart rate, cardiac rhythm and blood oxygenation which is supplied into cardiac chambers. So all these factors will contribute to morphology of myocardial infarction. Then in myocardial infarction, there are all different patterns of myocardial infarction. So we will see what are all the patterns of myocardial infarction. Primarily, there are three patterns of myocardial infarction. The first one is transmural infarction. The second one is subendocardial infarction and third one is multifocal microinfarction. Now we will see what are all the primary difference between transmural and subendocardial form of myocardial infarction. Transmural infarction usually involves full thickness of ventricular wall when compared to subendocardial, in which inner one-third to half of the ventricular thickness is involved. And number two, Transmural will be usually unifocal, whereas multifocality will be seen in case of subendocardial myocardial infarction. And transmural will be usually solid, whereas subendocardial will be patchy. And usually single coronary artery pathology will be seen in case of transmural infarction, whereas more than one artery will be a case in case of subendocardial infarction. And coronary thrombosis will be a primary factor in case of transmural, whereas it is rare to see a thrombosis in case of subendocardial infarct. And next, the most important, transmural will result in shock, whereas subendocardial will result from shock. And epicarditis is most common in case of transmural, whereas it is rare to see epicarditis in case of subendocardial myocardial infarction. And various complications, which includes formation of aneurysm, ventricular rupture, as well as pericarditis, are more common in case of transmural when compared to subendocardial. And usually transmural myocardial infarction will cause ST elevation infarct, whereas non-ST elevation infarct will be seen in case of subendocardial myocardial infarction. Now we will see what is ST elevation and non-ST elevation infarct. So this is the ECG picture, which is seen in case of normal as well as in ST elevation MI and non-ST elevation MI. In a normal ECG, you can see that there is P wave, QRS complex and T wave formation. Whereas in non-ST elevation MI, as in case of subendocardial myocardial infarction, you can see there is either ST depression or T wave inversion when compared to normal ECG. Whereas something which is called as ST elevation MI here, which occurs in case of transmural myocardial infarction, will show ST elevation. So this ST elevation and ST depression and T wave inversion are nothing but the changes of ECG that occurs in case of myocardial infarction. Now this is a transverse section of heart which shows you the difference between the subendocardial infarct and transmural myocardial infarct. Otherwise, ST elevation MI and non-ST elevation MI. So you can see on the left there is partial thickness damage of heart muscle in non-ST elevation MI, which means subendocardial myocardial infarction, whereas full thickness damage of heart muscle is seen in ST elevation MI, or you can describe as in case of transmural myocardial infarction. Next, this is the gross picture of myocardial infarction. The arrow shows the areas of myocardial infarction which is not stained with red color. Here, the chemical substance called triphenyl tetrazolium chloride is used for demonstration of myocardial infarction. What is this triphenyl tetrazolium chloride? This is a chemical usually white and crystalline. When it is exposed to a tissue, due to action of some enzymes which are all present in the tissue, it will get converted into red color normally when the tissue is metabolically active. Whereas in cases where the tissue has gone for death, due to leak of this enzyme, the tissue will not be metabolically active. So all these tissues will not act upon the triphenyl tetrazolium chloride, resulting in non-conversion of color of triphenyl tetrazolium chloride, and that is why all the active areas has taken red color, whereas the areas of myocardial infarction as shown in this arrow has taken white color, otherwise has not taken the stain of red color. Now this slide and next slides are most important in case of myocardial infarction because pertaining to time, gross features, light microscopy feature and electron microscopic feature will be shown in these two slides. And You have to memorize these two slides because it will exactly say you at what point of time what changes will occur in gross and what changes will occur in light microscopy as well as in electron microscopy. Coming on to time, in 0 to half hour after myocardial infarction, grossly you will not see any changes, and light microscopy also will not show any changes except for few changes in electron microscopy in the form of cellular swelling. And half an hour to 4 hour there will not be any changes in gross feature, whereas light microscopy will show you variable waviness of cardiac muscle fibers and electron microscopy will show you amorphous densities. Whereas 4 to 12 hours grossly you will see a dark mottling which will be seen in 12 to 24 hours also, but light microscopy changes from 4 to 12 hours will show you the evidence of coagulative necrosis, edema and hemorrhage, whereas between 12 to 24 hours you will see early neutrophilic infiltration and contraction band formation. 1 to 3 days grossly you will see yellow tan center, and light microscopy will show you brisk neutrophilic infiltrate, whereas 3 to 7 days hyperemic border will be seen in gross pathology, whereas in light microscopy you will see macrophage infiltration. And 7 to 10 days red tan margin will be seen, and light microscopy will show you a well developed phagocytosis and early fibrovascular granulation tissue formation, whereas 10 to 14 days there will be infarct borders in gross pathology, whereas in light microscopy you will see a well formed granulation tissue, a new blood vessel in the form of neoangiogenesis and collagen production, whereas 2 to 8 weeks the tissue will turn grey white and there will be increased collagen deposition under light microscopy, whereas more than 2 months scarring will be complete in gross, and under light microscopy you will see a dense collagenous scar formation. So these are all the changes in gross, light microscopy and electron microscopy pertaining to time after myocardial infarction. Now, why all these changes occur and what is the primary pathogenesis behind this myocardial infarction and myocardial ischemia? As you know, myocardial ischemia and infarction occurs due to reduced blood supply. When there is reduced blood supply, there is going to be reduced oxygenation to the target tissue. When there is going to be reduced oxygenation, the cell will stop its aerobic glycolysis and turn towards anaerobic glycolysis, resulting in increased lactic acid formation, resulting in lactic acidosis. And because there is going to be reduced oxygen supply, there will be inadequate adenosine triphosphate ATP formation. Because there is going to be reduced ATP formation, the sodium potassium ATPase pump which is present over the cell membrane will not function properly. This results in increased influx of sodium and increased influx of calcium and increased efflux of potassium, resulting in cellular damage, cellular membrane disintegration, cellular swelling, resulting in cell death and cell necrosis. So this is the pathogenesis behind the coagulative necrosis which occurs due to ischemia in all the tissues, not only in myocardium. Now, in short, microscopic feature which we have discussed under light microscopy in previous two slides can be seen here. In the nutshell, from 6 to 12 hours there will be a changes of coagulative necrosis, whereas from 1 to 3 days you will see acute inflammatory change in the form of brisk neutrophilic infiltrate, whereas 3 to 7 days there will be macrophage infiltration, and around 1 to 2 weeks there will be granulation tissue formation, and around 6 weeks there will be fibrous scar formation. So this is all about the microscopic changes that will occur in case of myocardial infarction. So this is the microscopic picture. The first on the left will show the wavy fibers. Here you can see all the cardiac muscle fibers are wavy. Whereas the next one is the changes of early infarct, which is a type of coagulative necrosis. And here on the left you can see coagulative necrosis and wavy fibers, and on the right there is a brisk neutrophilic infiltrate. And here on the left there is phagocytosis, which is nothing but infiltration of macrophages into the tissues. On the right there is a dense collagenous scar formation. On the right, where the arrow is put, below the arrow and above the arrow, and in the patchy areas you can see a blue colored stained tissue. So this blue colored stained tissue will not be seen usually when the tissue is stained with hematoxylin and eosin stain. So here they are used some special stain which is called as MTS, otherwise called as Mason trichrome stain. This Mason trichrome stain is a kind of special stain that is usually used in pathology in the cases where we have to demonstrate the abundance of collagen, because there is going to be scar tissue which is secondary to formation of excess collagen. All this collagen has taken a blue color. So as a take home, you just have in your mind that there is something which is called as MTS, which is a kind of special stain which is called as Mason trichrome stain, that is used for demonstration of abundance of collagen in the tissue. So wherever we think that there is going to be abundance of collagen, this Mason trichrome stain is used, and if it is used when there is presence of collagen, it will take blue color. And this is a simple picture for you to use in exams to show the changes of myocardial infarction. So there is normal and 12 to 18 hour changes where there is patchy infiltration of neutrophil, and after 24 hours you can see dense inflammatory infiltrate, primarily neutrophils, and after 3 weeks you can see a granulation tissue formation. So what is this granulation tissue? This granulation tissue, how does it appears? Grossly when you see a granulation tissue, it will be soft and pink, whereas under microscopy what are all the components of granulation tissue? The granulation tissue is composed of a mixture of inflammatory cells, proliferating fibroblasts and blood vessels. The inflammatory cells will be in the form of macrophages and lymphocytes, and admixed with this you will see a lot of fibroblasts, and along with that you will see a lot of proliferating blood vessels and especially new blood vessel formation, which is called as angiogenesis. So in simple, angiogenesis, fibroblasts and mixed inflammatory cells will form a granulation tissue. And next, after 3 months there is dense collagenous scar due to deposition of abundance of collagen. So now this ends the pathogenesis, the causes, gross picture, microscopy and electron microscopic changes of myocardial infarction. Next, we will move on to enzymes and myocardial infarction. What is the significance of these enzymes in myocardial infarction? As all of us know, all the cells in the body have some enzymes which are all stored within the cell. When there is cell injury, because of the cell injury, the enzyme tend to get released from inner side of the cell, and they will get leaked into the peripheral blood, and thereby increasing the level of enzyme in peripheral blood after the cell injury. The same phenomena occurs here after myocardial infarction. So a rise in certain enzymes in the peripheral blood will play a major role in diagnosis of myocardial infarction. Now we will see what are all the enzymes which play a major role in diagnosis of myocardial infarction. First, we will see about CK, which is called as creatine kinase. This creatine kinase usually occurs in 3 isoforms. They are all CKMM, CKBB and CKMB. CKMM occurs in cardiac muscle as well as in skeletal muscle. CKBB occurs in brain, lungs and in some other tissues, and CKMB occurs principally in myocardium with variable amount in skeletal muscle. Now what happens to this creatine kinase level in peripheral blood is that among these 3 types of creatine kinase, CKMB will play a major role in diagnosis of myocardial infarction. So what happens to this creatine kinase MB after myocardial infarction? It tends to rise within 4 to 8 hours after myocardial infarction, peaks at 18 hours and disappears by 48 to 72 hours. And most important is absence of change in level of CKMB during first 2 days of chest pain essentially excludes myocardial infarction. And next important enzyme is troponin. In troponin, we have three forms: troponin I, troponin T, and troponin C. Among these three, troponin I and T are structural component of cardiac muscle, and these get released into the bloodstream with myocardial injury. They are highly specific for myocardial injury, more so than creatine kinase MB, and they help to exclude the elevation of CK with skeletal muscle trauma. Troponins will begin to increase following MI within 3 to 12 hours, about the same time frame as creatine kinase MB. However, the rate of rise for early infarction may not be as dramatic as for creatine kinase MB. And among troponin I and troponin T, troponin I is more specific when compared to troponin T. And troponin level will remain elevated longer than creatine kinase, that is up to 5 to 9 days for troponin I and up to 2 weeks for troponin T. This makes troponin a superior marker for diagnosing myocardial infarction. But however, this continued elevation has the disadvantage of making it more difficult to diagnose reinfarction or extension of infarction in a patient who has already suffered an initial myocardial infarction. And as I have told already, troponin T lacks some specificity when compared to troponin I, which is more specific for myocardial injury. Then coming on to myoglobin. Myoglobin is a protein found in skeletal and cardiac muscle. It is very sensitive indicator of muscle injury. The rise in myoglobin can help to determine the size of the infarction, and this is the earliest enzyme to rise in case of myocardial infarction. A negative myoglobin can help to rule out myocardial infarction. It is elevated even before CKMB. However, it is not specific for cardiac muscle injury. Next one is lactate dehydrogenase. This lactate dehydrogenase begins to rise in 12 to 24 hours following MI, peaks in 2 to 3 days, gradually dissipating in 5 to 14 days. Measurement of LDH isoenzyme is necessary for greater specificity for cardiac injury. There are usually 5 iso forms of lactate dehydrogenase. Ordinarily, isoenzyme 2 is greater than 1. But with myocardial injury, this pattern is flipped and 1 is higher than 2. And in a nutshell, myoglobin is most sensitive indicator of muscle injury and earliest to rise after myocardial infarction. A negative myoglobin rise can help to rule out myocardial infarction. And number 2, LDH isoenzyme 1 is higher than 2 in myocardial infarction. And number 3, troponin is a superior marker for diagnosing myocardial infarction, and troponin I is most specific cardiac marker. And combination of creatine kinase and troponin will diagnose most of the myocardial infarction. Next, coming on to complication of myocardial infarction. These are all some of the complications of myocardial infarction. 1. Arrhythmias and conduction defects with possible sudden death. Number 2, extension of infarction or reinfarction. Then congestive cardiac failure resulting in pulmonary edema. Fourth one is cardiogenic shock, and fifth one is pericarditis, which occur as a complication of myocardial ischemia and myocardial infarction, which is called as Dressler's syndrome. And next, mural thrombosis with possible embolization, and myocardial wall rupture with possible tamponade. Then papillary muscle rupture with possible valvular insufficiency, and finally ventricular aneurysm formation. So these are all the pictures which will show you. First one will show you anterior myocardial rupture as indicated by arrow, and second one is the septal rupture, and third one is papillary muscle necrosis. and this is a case of pericarditis. And next we'll show a formation of mural thrombus as a complication of myocardial infarction. And finally, this is an aneurysm, which is nothing but dilatation of the cardiac chamber and the blood vessels. So these are all few complications that occurs after myocardial infarction. And in a nutshell about myocardial infarction means death of the cardiac muscle due to prolonged ischemia. And coronary artery occlusion, mainly atherosclerosis, is the most common cause for myocardial infarction. Left anterior descending artery is most commonly involved in myocardial infarction. Three patterns of infarction occurs in myocardial infarction. They are all transmural, subendocardial and multifocal microinfarction. And ST elevation MI occurs in transmural infarction and non-ST elevation MI occurs in subendocardial myocardial infarction. And four enzymes will play major role in diagnosis of myocardial infarction. They are creatine kinase, troponin, myoglobin and lactate dehydrogenase. And few complications which are all mural thrombosis, myocardial wall rupture, papillary muscle rupture, ventricular aneurysm formation, arrhythmias and conduction defects, extension of infarction and cardiogenic shock, and finally pericarditis, as called as Dressler syndrome, can occur after myocardial infarction. So this ends session 2. Have a good day. Thank you.